Hey everyone, this is Christian Heimel, host of Caught Listening. Thanks for listening to the following podcast on Public House Media.
You're listening to Catch Up, an official news production of Public House Media.
Today is July 28th, 2020, and it's time to catch up on the news that you need to know about.
Today, we're helping you catch up on the service celebrating John Lewis,
new developments in the COVID-19 vaccine,
the first sports championship is awarded during the pandemic,
and as always, ending with a bit of good news for you today.
We're your hosts, Dan Kotnick
and Madeline Kahn. Welcome to Catch Up.
The celebration of the life and service of Representative John Lewis began today with a memorial service in the Capitol. Representative Lewis passed away on July 17th after a battle with pancreatic cancer and was the last living speaker from the 1963 March on Washington. The two-day service follows several days of tribute celebration for Lewis in Alabama, where he and other civil rights leaders like Martin Luther King protested in the 1960s.
The service included remarks from some of his fellow congressmen, including House Speaker Nancy Pelosi and Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell. Pelosi, who had referred to Lewis in the past as the conscience of the Congress, said, "God truly blessed America with the life and leadership of John Lewis. John committed his life to advancing justice and understood that to build it a better future, we had to acknowledge the past." She also introduced an audio recording of John Lewis speaking from 2014.
Lewis's body was laid in state in the Capitol Rotunda for a private viewing before a public viewing Monday night and will remain there today. John Lewis is the first African-American lawmaker to lie in state in the Capitol Rotunda, an honor reserved for the most distinguished lawmakers and military personnel. Only two other African-Americans have lied in honor reserved for private citizens, civil rights figure Rosa Parks and Capitol Police Officer Jacob Chestnut.
Lewis was honored over the weekend in Selma, Alabama, including a trip across the Edmund Pettus Bridge. A powerful image, as it's the same bridge Lewis and other civil rights activists marched for voting rights in 1965. The journey for a COVID-19 vaccine reached an important milestone Monday as Moderna Therapeutics, a Massachusetts-based biotech company, began the first phase 3 trial of a COVID-19 vaccine candidate in the United States. This is the main event, if you will, in drug development, Dr. Stephen Hodge, president of Moderna, said. "We urgently need a safe and effective preventative vaccine to ultimately control this pandemic," Dr. Anthony Fauci, the director of NIAID, said in a statement Monday.
30,000 volunteers will be recruited at 100 research sites across the country. Half of the participants will receive the vaccine, and the other half will receive a placebo. Neither the participants nor the researchers will know who gets the real vaccine and who gets the placebo.
Moderna was the first company in the United States to begin testing coronavirus vaccines in humans, administering its first dose on March 16th. Earlier this month, the company released results from its phase 1 trial, which included 45 adults. Every single one of those participants developed antibodies to fight the virus at levels up to 4 times the amount found in patients who got sick and then recovered, the company said. Having a safe and effective vaccine distributed by the end of 2020 is a stretch goal, but it's the right goal for the American people, Dr. Francis Collins, the director of the NIH, said in a statement.
Despite Moderna's head start, there will not be one winner in the pursuit of a COVID-19 vaccine. Multiple pharmaceutical companies will need to find a safe and effective vaccine to meet the global demand. And like the flu shot, some vaccines may turn out to be better suited for certain populations, such as the elderly or people with compromised immune systems. Understandably, why the phase 3 trials will require thousands of participants from a variety of backgrounds. We're looking for a diverse population, Dr. Brandon Essink, an investigator with Meridian Clinical Research, said. Meridian is one of the sites participating in the Moderna trial. Essink said his team is, quote, looking for higher risk patients for more severe disease, end quote. That includes people of different ages and races, as well as those with comorbidities such as heart disease or type 2 diabetes. Globally, at least 150 vaccines are in development, but the vast majority are in the earliest stages of research. Just 4 potential vaccines, including Moderna's, have advanced to the phase 3 trial so far, according to the World Health Organization.
Pfizer is scheduled to join in as well, with plans to begin phase 3 trials this week. The University of Oxford in the UK, in partnership with AstraZeneca, is expected to start its phase 3 studies within the next month. 1 week ago, Oxford researchers announced results from their phase 1 trial showing their vaccine candidate generated 2 strong immune responses, the production of both antibodies and T cells. The immune system makes antibodies in a response to a virus so it can recognize it and fight it off a second time. T cells are also important because they search for the infected cells, attacking and then later killing them. Also Monday, Johnson & Johnson announced it began its first trials of the vaccine as well. The Food and Drug Administration said that any COVID-19 vaccine would need to prevent illness or decrease the severity of the disease in 50% of people who receive it in order to be approved.
Multiple vaccines will be necessary to meet the global demand to stop or at least slow the pandemic. We're not putting all our bets on one vaccine candidate, Dr. Walter Orenstein, Associate Director of the Emory Vaccine Center and Professor of Infectious Diseases at Emory University of Medicine, said. Orenstein is not involved in any phase 3 vaccine studies. This vaccine is circulating around the world, he said, so having several vaccines is, quote, in our interest, not only to try and directly protect our own population, but to try to ensure that people around the world can get access to vaccines to minimize the virus reintroduction in the United States. Essex said, quote, it doesn't have to help 100% of people, but it has to help a majority. It was the first major league sport to return to action amidst the COVID-19 pandemic, and now they're the first ones to crown their champions as well. The NWSL, the top flight league for women's soccer in North America, wrapped up their month-long Challenge Cup tournament on Sunday. Playing in front of an empty stadium in Utah, usually the home of the MLS's Real Salt Lake and NWSL's own Utah Royals FC, it was the Houston Dash taking home the trophy with a 2-0 win over the Chicago Red Stars.
What makes it an even better story, I think, is that this was technically the first time the Houston Dash has ever gotten to compete for a postseason championship. They've been a part of this league for 6 years, and they've really never qualified for the playoffs. This tournament is unique, obviously, as every team that participated was part of the knockout round, but it's still a trophy that represents the hard work all of the players in this league were able to put in during such an interesting time.
And something else to look out outside of the impressive win for the Houston Dash is that this tournament can be seen as a win for the NWSL and their commissioner, Lisa Baird, as the league reported 0 positive COVID tests over the entire tournament. Now, the league did have a team, the Orlando Pride, withdraw before heading to the bubble after they had a handful of players and staff with positive test results. But once team entered the bubble in Salt Lake City, everything seemed to work perfectly. All players were quarantined in the bubble, similar to what MLS and the NBA have set up, and administered over 2,000 tests on players and staff.
And while the Dash as a team won the tournament, one Dash player stood out as well. Rachel Daly, forward and captain of the Dash, took home not only the Golden Boot for most goals scored, but was also named as the tournament's MVP, finishing with 3 goals and 2 assists. If you won the lottery, what would you do with the money? Would you split it with a good friend? That's what a pair of best friends did in Wisconsin. Tom Cook and Joe Feeney shook hands in 1992, swearing that if either of they would split the winnings, no matter who bought the ticket.
Tom of Elk Mound was, quote, frozen when he realized the Powerball ticket he bought was the $22 million jackpot winner. Afterward, he called Joe in Menominee to tell him the news, and Joe, an avid fisherman, couldn't believe it. He called me and said, "Are you jerking my bobber?" recalls Joe. To give you perspective, the overall odds of winning the Powerball jackpot are 1 in almost 300 million. They're sold in 45 states. Tom gave his 2 weeks notice and retired upon learning the news. Neither have any wild plans for the winnings. Both took home nearly $6 million after taxes, but are looking forward to enjoying more family time and traveling. Previously, Tom, Joe, and their wives took a road trip together in a small PT Cruiser convertible. For future road trips, they plan to upgrade their vehicle a bit, stating, quote, "I can't think of a better way to retire," Tom concluded. Thanks for catching up on today's news with us. I'm Dan Kotnick.
And I'm Madeline Kahn. Please be sure to catch up with us again tomorrow as we wrap up our last week of episodes.
If you enjoyed today's episode, please leave us a rating and review on Apple Podcasts.
We appreciate you listening to Catch Up. For even more content, follow Catch Up Digital on social media. Just search for @TimeForCatchUp.
We'd love to hear your thoughts on any of the stories we cover today. Just use the hashtag #PassTheCatchup on social media.
Catch Up is an official production of Public House Media. Bye.